Trey Hardin, ABC News political analyst. Good morning, Trey.
Good morning. How are you?
How are you doing? It's diabolical in its brilliance that Donald Trump is picking on the media. That's how I see it. How do you see it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's both a strategy, but it's an attitude as well, and an attitude that clearly stems from his personality. But it also comes down to, in terms of its success, you know, what side you're looking at it from. I mean, if you're looking at it from the Trump White House right now, you're going to keep doing it because it is completely feeding the monster that helped get you elected. The big question is, and then obviously if you're looking at it from a media standpoint, it's very bothersome and agitating, although I would say that I think those in the media, for example, someone like Chuck Todd and Jake Tapper, who are complaining about it regularly and talking about how it's just completely unfair, unethical, all of this, I think they are only digging a hole deeper for themselves in an industry that unfortunately doesn't have the highest of approval ratings either. They're feeding the monster to a certain degree too, because they're taking the bait, so to speak, of Trump. But the big question here is it a sustainable strategy or attitude? Because ultimately, how does Congress react to this? And, you know, Trump can think that he's a one-man show all he wants, but ultimately the three branches of government do have to work together in order to accomplish things, and that has not happened over the last 10 to 15 years, and that's why not much has gotten done. But if he really does want to get things done, he's got to have some support and consensus in Congress, particularly of his own party. And I can tell you right now that the reaction on Capitol Hill of Republicans is certainly one of anxiety and not a positive one.
I mean, he has a golden opportunity. They own all three branches of government. He can work with them. It is a perfect opportunity, and conservatives, so forget liberals for a second, conservatives are ringing the bell, calling attention to this, saying this is not a way to run a railroad. That's what I think is more interesting than anything else.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's being very tunnel visioned in his approach to governing right now, in that he is only trying to appeal to that kind of new monster vote that obviously was significant, but that kind of Breitbart new monster vote that maybe he woke up and got to vote, maybe for the people for the first time, or certainly in droves in key states. It's just like he's only playing to that. And again, so if you're looking at it from his view, I mean, he thinks to, take a line from from that TV show, The Man in the High Castle concept. I mean, he thinks he's there and that castle's fortified and it's as strong as possible, and people need to come to him. Unfortunately, we don't live in that type of society, and that's not what democracy is. And ultimately, democracy is going to win out in this country. So, and the press is part of the democracy. And the folks in Congress, to your point, I mean, conservatives as well, they see it exactly how you just prefaced it, which is huge opportunity to get things done. Everyone's kind of pretty much on the same page from the policy standpoint. It's just the policy is taking a back seat to the approach, and that could potentially mean lost opportunity.
Next week is a joint session of Congress, a.k.a. the State of the Union, but they don't call it a State of the Union with a new president in his first year. That could be a show in and of itself, him addressing a joint session of Congress. It's almost like a Saturday Night Live skit in reverse.
Yeah, I think the thing I'm going to be looking for is that, I mean, clearly he's going to have a speech written and prepared, and he's going to be reading off of the teleprompters like every president does in those situations. The two things that I'm interested in is how the tone and the tenor of the speech. If the tone and tenor of the speech is like his press conference last week, I mean, it's going to be a mess, I think. It's only going to create unease and discomfort among everyone kind of in the room. So that's one. Two, if when the Democrats don't stand up to clap, or maybe even boo, to be quite frankly, or get snarky. Who knows? I mean, we may see something unprecedented in terms of a reaction. Does he go off script and go nuclear against them, and it just turn into almost like some, junior high type, like, back and forth? It would be, nothing would surprise me at this point, but I think those are the things to look for. Again, to your point, McGraw, next Tuesday is a huge opportunity for him. It's a huge opportunity for him to really kind of hit the reset button by showing a different tone and tenor and kind of an optimistic, positive approach, and, hey, get on this train because we've got some really good policy here. It's just, he's just not willing to do that because of his personality.
You mentioned unprecedented reaction from the Democrats. Who was the Republican who heckled President Obama during his first or second year?
Yeah, exactly. It was Congressman Wilson from South Carolina, and you're exactly right. I mean, that was one. It was not thought of highly by many people, but listen, all bets are off. I mean, you have an unprecedented number of Democrats that didn't go to the inauguration, and you've got, I think, Democrats that particularly along racial and discriminatory lines are really furious about this president. It wouldn't surprise me if they're in the chamber, but standing or sitting with their back to him.
Should be interesting. Trey Hardin will be here to tell us all about it. Trey, have a good week. Thanks.
You too. Take care.
627, Big 550 KTRS. Scott Crothers is back. We'll check the markets with him. And Dexter Fowler, center fielder for the Cardinals, weighing in on Donald Trump's travel ban, and that went over like a lead balloon. All of that coming up. 6